Good morning, good morning, good morning. It's a bright and sunshiny day. Hey, good morning, everybody. I hope you're as happy and healthy today. Oh, I didn't monetize this. So, something I forget lately. That just dawned on me. Someone left saying I singing on Greatest Love of All or whatever song I think was horrible. I just deleted it. Another one said it was wonderful, and they were singing along during it. So I can't. In the studios, I found that comment, but underneath the video, I can't. So, who said I was a professional? Right? Not a professional. Thing is, when I go listen to other people sing, do I say the horrible? No, because they're doing something they love. Okay, let's get started. What does that mean? Low disk space. Are you serious? What do you mean low disk space? This There's not enough available storage to load a higher quality version of this photo. You can manage. Do I have too much videos? I mean, pictures. Let me just go. Let me check this. No, it's all my regular pictures. I'm not getting rid of all these. There's Maya in here. Bridget when she was a baby. Ashley when she was a baby. Me when I was a baby. Ivy when she was a baby. Friends, maybe some pictures on another device that's in there. So I will go through them. Our Father, our Father in heaven, may your name be kept holy. May your kingdom come soon. May your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us today the food we need, and forgive us our sins, as we have forgiven those who sin against us. And don't let us yield to temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. Sorry, but rescue us from the evil one.
Okay.
Be quiet. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Thank you, Lord, for another beautiful day on your beautiful earth. Sorry, thank you, Jehovah, for another beautiful day on your beautiful earth. And thank you for allowing us to wake up today. And thank you for what you did for us in the past, present, and what you will do for us in the future. Maybe on my phone. Sorry. I should never stopped the riddle. Jehovah, please forgive me. Please accept my apology for the interruption. Jehovah, please give Danielle through what she's going through. Her medical, what she's going through medically right now. Please give Tate, Cindy Lee, Lisa, King Charles, Princess Kate, and Jen's friend Shannon, and Celine Dion, physical and mental strength to fight off their diseases. Celine Dion has stiff person syndrome that seizures come along with it. And Tate and them, Tate, Cindy Lee, Lisa, King Charles, Princess Kate, and Jen's friend Shannon all have cancers. And Tate also has a heart defect. Well, he had a heart transplant. So the medicine from one is canceling out the other medicine. So he needs a miracle. And I know, Jehovah, you can do it. Jen with her vertigo to get better. Christina's family to be healthy and happy. Tiffany, same thing, to be healthy and happy. Give physical and mental strength to her eldest son. Physical and mental strength to Robin Taylor and her family. They're going through a lot of stuff right now. Miss Diane daughters, Arnie, Vic and family, Carol and her mom. Give them all mental and physical strength to get through whatever they're going through right now, medically, mentally, physically. In the name of Jesus Christ the Lord, amen. It's still there. I don't know I don't know why. Should I? You know why I think it is? It's because that while. Well, that one's new. Load this space. I don't get it. So what I think I'm gonna do is, with my pictures, like, some of these, that's what I say when I go live. Some of, the dog's pictures, shoot. No. Some of the puppy's pictures, I can actually put them on Facebook, except for my brother's. He doesn't want that out there. Yeah, so all her pictures will probably go up on Facebook. Yeah, not his. I'll keep that on here. Look at this one. Shaggy. Shaggy Doo. She's sleeping in my arms. So, alright, let's get back to yeah, that's what I probably will do. Judges, chapter 11 to 21.
Now Jephthah the Gileadite was a mighty warrior. He was the son of a prostitute, and Gilead was Jephthah's father. But Gilead's wife also bore him sons. When the sons of his wife grew up, they drove Jephthah out and said to him,
"You will have no inheritance in our father's household, for you are the son of another woman."
So Jephthah fled from his brothers and settled in the land of Tob. Men joined company with Jephthah, and they followed him. After a while, the Ammonites fought against Israel. And when the Ammonites fought against Israel, the elders of Gilead immediately went to bring Jephthah back from the land of Tob. They said to Jephthah,
"Come and serve as our commander, so that we can fight against the Ammonites."
But Jephthah said to the elders of Gilead,
"Was it not you who hated me so much that you drove me out of my father's house? Why have you come to me now when you are in distress?"
At this the elders of Gilead said to Jephthah,
"That is why now we have returned to you. If you go with us and fight against the Ammonites, you will become our leader over all the inhabitants of Gilead."
So Jephthah said to the elders of Gilead,
"If you bring me back to fight against the Ammonites and Jehovah defeats them for me, then I will indeed become your leader."
The elders of Gilead said to Jephthah,
"Let Jehovah be the witness between us if we do not do as you say."
So Jephthah went with the elders of Gilead, and the people made him their leader and commander. And Jephthah repeated all his words before Jehovah in Mizpah. Jephthah then sent messengers to the king of the Ammonites, saying,
"What do you have against me that you have come to attack my land?"
So the king of the Ammonites said to the messengers of Jephthah,
"It is because Israel took my land when they came up out of Egypt, from the Arnon to the Jabbok, and as far as the Jordan. Now return it peaceably."
But Jephthah sent messengers back to the king of the Ammonites to say to him,
This is what Jephthah says. "Israel did not take the land of the Moabites and the land of the Ammonites. For when they came up out of Egypt, Israel walked through the wilderness as far as the Red Sea and came to Kadesh. Then Israel sent messengers to the king of Edom, saying, 'Please let us pass through your land.' But the king of Edom did not listen. Also to the king of Moab they sent word, but he did not consent. So Israel kept dwelling in Kadesh. When they walked through the wilderness, they bypassed the land of Edom and the land of Moab. They traveled east of the land of Moab and camped in the region of the Arnon. They did not come within the boundary of Moab, for the Arnon was the boundary of Moab. After that, Israel sent messengers to Sihon, king of the Amorites, king of Heshbon. And Israel said to him, "Please, let us pass through your land to our own place." But Sihon did not trust Israel to cross through his territory. So Sihon gathered all his people together and encamped in Jahaz and fought against Israel. At this, Jehovah, the God of Israel, gave Sihon and all his people into Israel's hand, so that they defeated them. And Israel took possession of all the land of the Amorites, the inhabitants of that land. Thus, they took possession of all the territory of the Amorites, from the Arnon to the Jabbok, and from the wilderness to the Jordan. It was Jehovah, the God of Israel, who drove out the Amorites from before his people Israel. And now, would you drive them out? Do you not possess whatever your God Chemosh gives you to possess? So everyone whom Jehovah our God has driven out from before us is the one we will drive out. Now, are you any better than Balak, the son of Zippor, the king of Moab? Did he ever contend with Israel, or did he ever fight against them? While Israel was dwelling in Heshbon and its dependent towns, and in Aroer and its dependent towns, and in all the cities of the Arnon for 300 years, why did you never try to take them back during that time? I have not sinned against you, but you are wrong to attack me. Let Jehovah, the judge, be judged today between the people of Israel and the people of Ammon.
But the king of the Ammonites would not listen to the message that Jephthah sent to him. Jehovah's spirit came upon Jephthah, and he passed through Gilead and Manasseh to go to Mizpah of Gilead, and from Mizpah of Gilead he continued on to the Ammonites. Then Jephthah made a vow to Jehovah and said,
If you give the Ammonites into my hand, then whoever comes out of the door of my house to meet me when I return in peace from the Ammonites will become Jehovah's, and I will offer that one up as a burnt offering.
So Jephthah went to fight against the Ammonites, and Jehovah gave them into his hand. He struck them down with a very great slaughter, from Aroer all the way to Minnith, 20 cities, and as far as Abel-Keramim. Thus the Ammonites were subdued before the Israelites. Finally, Jephthah came to his home in Mizpah, and look, his daughter was coming out to meet him, playing tambourine and dancing. Now she was his one and only child. Besides her, he had neither son nor daughter. When he saw her, he ripped his garments and said,
Oh no, my daughter, you have broken my heart, for you have become the one I have banished. Now I have opened my mouth to Jehovah, and I am unable to turn back.
But she said to him,
My father, if you have opened your mouth to Jehovah, do to me as you have promised, since Jehovah has executed vengeance for you upon your enemies, the Ammonites.
She then said to her father,
Let this be done for me. Let me be alone for 2 months,
There we go.
and let me go away into the mountains, and let me weep over my virginity with my female companions.
At this he said,
Go.
So he sent her away for 2 months, and she went to the mountains with her companions to weep over her virginity. At the end of 2 months, she returned to her father, after which he carried out the vow he had made regarding her. She never had relations with a man, and it became a custom in Israel. From year to year, the young women of Israel would go to give commendation to the daughter of Jephthah the Gileadite, 4 days in the year. Chapter 12. Then the men of Ephraim were summoned, and they crossed over to Zaphon, and said to Jephthah,
Why did you not call us to go with you when you crossed over to fight against the Ammonites?
We will burn your house down with you in it.
But Jephthah said to them,
Along with my people, I was engaged in a great conflict with the Ammonites. I did call to you for help, but you did not save me from their hand. When I saw that you would not save me, then I decided to risk my life and go against the Ammonites, and Jehovah handed them over to me. So why have you come today to fight against me?
Jephthah then gathered all the men of Gilead, and they fought Ephraim. The men of Gilead defeated Ephraim, who had said, "You are only fugitives from Ephraim, you Gileadites in Ephraim and Manasseh." Gilead captured the fords of the Jordan ahead of Ephraim, and when the men of Ephraim were trying to escape, they would say,
Let me cross over.
Then the men of Gilead would ask each one,
Are you an Ephraimite?
when he would reply,
No.
they would say to him,
Please say Shibboleth.
but he would say,
Sibboleth.
as he was unable to say the word correctly.
Sybil-
Then they would
Sybil-
seize him and slay him at the fords of the Jordan. So 42,000 Ephraimites fell at that time. Jephthah judged Israel for 6 years, after which Jephthah the Gileadite died, and was buried in his city in Gilead. Ibzan from Bethlehem judged Israel after him. He had 30 sons and 30 daughters. He sent his daughters to marry men outside his clan, and he brought in 30 women to marry his sons. He judged Israel for 7 years. Then Ibzan died and was buried in Bethlehem. After him, Elon the Zebulunite judged Israel. He judged Israel for 10 years. Then Elon the Zebulunite died and was buried in Aijalon in the land of Zebulun. After him, Abdon the son of He had 40 sons and 30 grandsons who rode on 70 donkeys. He judged Israel for 8 years. Then Abdon the son of Hillel the Pirathonite died and was buried in Pirathon, in the land of Ephraim, in the mountain of the Amalekite. Chapter 13. Again the Israelites did what was bad in Jehovah's eyes, and Jehovah gave them into the hand of the Philistines for 40 years. Meanwhile, there was a man of Zorah, of the family of the Danites, whose name was Manoah. His wife was barren. In time, Jehovah's angel appeared to the woman and said to her,
Look, you are barren and childless, but you will conceive and give birth to a son. Now be careful not to drink wine or anything alcoholic, and do not eat anything unclean. Look, you will conceive and give birth to a son, and no razor should touch his head, because the child will be a Nazirite of God from birth. And he...
Then the woman went and told her husband.
A man of the true God came to me, and his appearance was like an angel of the true God, very awe-inspiring. I did not ask him where he was from, nor did he tell me his name. But he said to me, Look, you will conceive and give birth to a son. Now do not drink wine or anything alcoholic, and do not eat anything unclean, because the child will be a Nazirite of God from birth until the day of his death.
Pleaded with Jehovah and said,
Pardon me, Jehovah. Please, let the man of the true God whom you just sent come again to instruct us on what we should do with the child who was born.
So the true God listened to Manoah, and the angel of the true God came again to the woman while she was sitting in the field. Her husband Manoah was not with her. The woman quickly ran and told her husband,
Look, the man who came to me the other day has appeared to me.
Up and went with his wife. He came to the man and said to him,
Are you the man who spoke to my wife?
He said,
I am.
Then Manoah said,
May your words come true. What will be the child's manner of life, and what will be his work?
So Jehovah's angel said to Manoah,
Your wife should keep herself from everything that I mentioned to her. She should not eat anything that the grapevine produces. She should not drink wine or anything alcoholic, and she should not eat anything unclean. Everything that I commanded her, let her observe.
Manoah now said to Jehovah's angel,
Please stay, and let us prepare a young goat for you.
But Jehovah's angel said to Manoah,
If I stay, I will not eat your food. But if you wish to present a burnt offering to Jehovah, you may offer it up.
Manoah did not know that he was Jehovah's angel. Then Manoah said to Jehovah's angel,
What is your name, so that we may honor you when your word comes true?
However, Jehovah's angel said to him,
Why are you asking about my name, seeing that it is a wonderful one?
Then Manoah took the young goat and the grain offering and offered them on the rock to Jehovah. And he was doing something amazing while Manoah and his wife were looking on. Altar heavenward, Jehovah's angel ascended in the flame from the altar, while Manoah and his wife were looking on. At once they fell with their faces to the ground. Jehovah's angel did not appear again to Manoah and his wife. Then Manoah realized that he was Jehovah's angel. Manoah then said to his wife,
We are sure to die, because it is God whom we have seen.
But his wife
Good
said
Lord.
to him,
Sorry.
If Jehovah wanted to put us to death, he would not have accepted a burnt offering and a grain offering from our hand. He would not have shown us all these things, and he would not have told us any of these things.
The woman later gave birth to a son and named him Samson. And as the boy grew, Jehovah continued to bless him. In time, Jehovah's spirit started to impel him in Mahanadan, between Zorah and Eshtaol.
Oh gosh. Why at all times? Seriously. Internet, come back to us. What do I do? Oh, it's back. Seriously. You,
Chapter 14.
oops.
Chapter 14. Then Samson went down to Timnah, and in Timnah he saw a Philistine woman. So he went up and told his father and mother,
In Timnah, a Philistine woman caught my eye, and I want you to get her for me as a wife.
But his father and mother said to him,
Can you not find a woman among your relatives and among all our people?
Must you go and take a wife from among the uncircumcised Philistines?
But Samson said to his father,
Get her for me, because she is the right one for me.
His father and mother did not realize that this was from Jehovah, for he was looking for an opportunity for the Philistines, as the Philistines were ruling over Israel at that time. So Samson went down with his father and mother to Timnah. When he reached the vineyards of Timnah, why look, a lion came roaring at him. Then Jehovah's spirit empowered him, and he tore it in two, just as someone tears a young goat in two with his bare hands. But he did not tell his father or mother what he had done. Then he went down and spoke to the woman, still the right one in Samson's eyes. Later, when he was going back to take her home, he turned aside to look at the dead body. In the lion's carcass was a swarm of bees and honey. So he scraped the honey out into his hands and ate it as he walked along. When he rejoined his father and mother, he gave them some to eat. But he did not tell them that he had scraped the honey out of the carcass of a lion. His father went down to the woman, and Samson held a banquet there, for that was what the young men used to do. When they saw him, they brought 30 groomsmen to accompany him. Then Samson said to them,
Please, let me tell you a riddle. If during the 7 days of the banquet you solve it and tell me the answer, I will have to give you 30 linen garments and 30 outfits of clothing. But if you are unable to tell me the answer, you must give me 30 linen garments and 30 outfits of clothing.
They said,
Tell us your riddle. We want to hear it.
So he said to them,
Out of the eater came something to eat, and out of the strong came something sweet.
They were unable to solve the riddle for 3 days. On the 4th day, they said to Samson's wife,
Trick your husband so that he will tell us the answer to the riddle. Otherwise, we will burn you and your father's house with fire. Did you invite us here to take our possessions?
So Samson's wife wept over him and said,
You must hate me. You do not love me. You told a riddle to my people, but you have not told the answer to me.
At this he said to her,
Why, I have not told it even to my own father and mother. Should I tell it to you?
But she kept weeping over him the rest of the 7-day banquet. He finally told her on the 7th day because she had pressured him. Then she told her people the answer to the riddle. So on the 7th day, before the sun set, the men of the city said to him,
What is sweeter than honey? And what is stronger than a lion?
He replied to them,
If you had not plowed with my young cow, you would not have solved my riddle.
Then Jehovah's Spirit empowered him, and he went down to Ashkelon and struck down 30 of their men and took their clothing and gave the outfits to those who had answered the riddle. He was furious as he went back up to his father's house. Samson's wife was then given to one of his groomsmen who had accompanied him. Chapter 15. After a while, in the days of the wheat harvest, Samson went to visit his wife, bringing a young goat. He said,
I wish to go in to my wife in the bedroom.
But her father did not allow him to go in. Her father said,
I thought, you must surely hate her, so I gave her to your groomsmen. Is not her younger sister more attractive than she is? Please, take her instead.
However, Samson said to them,
This time, I cannot be blamed by the Philistines for harming them.
So Samson went and caught 300 foxes. Then he took torches, turned the foxes tail to tail, and put one torch between each pair of tails. Then he set fire to the torches and sent the foxes out into the fields of standing grain of the Philistines. He set on fire everything from sheaf to standing grain, as well as the vineyards and the olive groves. The Philistines asked,
Who did this?
They were told,
It was Samson, the son-in-law of the Timnite, because he took his wife and gave her to his groomsmen.
At that, the Philistines went up and burned her and her father with fire. Then Samson said to them,
If this is how you act, I will not quit until I take revenge on you.
Then he struck them down, one after the other, with a great slaughter, after which he went down and stayed in a cave of the crag Etam. Later, the Philistines came up and camped in Judah and were tramping about in Lehi. Then the men of Judah said,
Why have you come up against us?
to which they answered,
We have come up to capture Samson, to do to him just as he did to us.
So 3,000 men of Judah went down to the cave of the crag Etam and said to Samson,
Do you not know that the Philistines are ruling over us? So why have you done this to us?
He said to them,
As they did to me, so I did to them.
But they said to him,
We have come to capture you and to hand you over to the Philistines.
Then Samson said,
Swear to me that you yourselves will not assault me.
They said to him,
No, we will only tie you and hand you over to them, but we will not put you to death.
So they bound him with 2 new ropes and brought him up from the crag. When he came to Lehi, the Philistines shouted triumphantly at meeting him. Then Jehovah's Spirit empowered him, and the ropes on his arms became like linen threads that were scorched with fire, and his fetters melted off his hands. He now found a fresh jawbone of a male donkey. He reached out and grabbed it and struck down 1,000 men with it. Then Samson said,
With the jawbone of a donkey, 1 heap, 2 heaps. With the jawbone of a donkey, I struck down 1,000 men.
When he finished speaking, he threw the jawbone away and called that place Ramath Lehi. Then he became very thirsty, and he called on Jehovah and said,
It was you who gave this great salvation into the hand of your servant. But now am I to die of thirst and fall into the hands of the uncircumcised?
So God split open a hollow that was in Lehi, and water flowed from it. When he drank, his spirit returned, and he revived. That is why he named the place En-Hakkore, which is in Lehi to this day. And he judged Israel in the days of the Philistines for 20 years. Chapter 16. One time Samson went to Gaza and saw a prostitute there, and he went in to her. The Gazites were told,
Samson has come here.
So they surrounded him and lay an ambush for him all night long in the city gate. They stayed quiet the whole night, saying to themselves,
When daylight comes, we will kill him.
However, Samson kept lying there until midnight. Then he got up at midnight and grabbed the doors of the city gate and the 2 side posts and pulled them out along with the bar. He put them on his shoulders and carried them up to the top of the mountain that faces Hebron. After that, he fell in love with a woman in the valley of Sorek, whose name was Delilah. So the lords of the Philistines approached her and said,
Trick him and find out what gives him such great strength, and how we can overpower him and tie him and subdue him. For this, we will each give you 1,100 silver pieces.
Delilah later said to Samson,
Please, tell me where your great power comes from, and what can be used to tie you and subdue you.
Samson said to her,
If they tie me with 7 fresh bowstrings that have not been dried out, I will grow as weak as an ordinary man.
So the lords of the Philistines brought up to her 7 fresh bowstrings that had not been dried out, and she tied him with them. Now they set an ambush in the inner room, and she called out to him,
The Philistines are upon you, Samson.
At that, he tore apart the bowstrings just as easily as a thread of flax comes apart when it touches fire. The secret of his power did not become known. Then Delilah said to Samson,
Look, you have fooled me and told me lies. Now tell me, please, what can be used to tie you?
So he said to her,
If they tie me up with new ropes that have not been used for work, I will grow as weak as an ordinary man.
So Delilah took new ropes and tied him with them, and called out,
The Philistines are upon you, Samson.
All the while, the ambush was set in the inner room. At that he tore them off his arms like threads. After that, Delilah said to Samson,
Up until now you have fooled me and told me lies. Tell me, what can be used to tie you?
Then he said to her,
If you weave the 7 braids of my head with the warp thread.
So she fixed them with a pin, and called out to him.
The Philistines are upon you, Samson.
So he woke up from his sleep and pulled out the loom pin and the warp thread. She now said to him,
How can you say, I love you, when your heart is not with me? These 3 times you have fooled me and have not told me the source of your great power.
Because day after day she kept nagging him and pressuring him, he was weary to the point of dying. So he finally opened his heart to her, saying,
A razor has never touched my head, because I am a Nazirite of God from birth. If I am shaved, my power will leave me, and I will grow weak and become like all other men.
When Delilah saw that he had opened his heart to her, she immediately summoned the Philistine lords, saying,
Come up this time, for he has opened his heart to me.
So the Philistine lords came up to her, bringing the money with them. She made him fall asleep on her knees. Then she called the man and had him shave off the 7 braids of his head. After that, she began to have control over him, for his power was leaving him. Now she called out,
The Philistines are upon you, Samson.
He woke up from his sleep and said,
I will go out as at other times and shake myself free.
But he did not know that Jehovah had left him. So the Philistines seized him and bored his eyes out.
Oh.
Then they brought him down to Gaza and bound him with 2 copper fetters, and he became a grinder of grain in the prison. But the hair of his head started to grow back again after he had been shaved. The Philistine lords gathered together to offer a great sacrifice to Dagon, their god, and to celebrate, for they were saying,
Our God has given Samson, our enemy, into our hand.
When the people saw him, they praised their God and said,
Our God has given into our hand our enemy, the one who devastated our land and killed so many of us.
Because their heart was cheerful, they said,
Call Samson to provide us some amusement.
So they called Samson out of the prison to entertain them. They made him stand between the pillars. Then Samson said to the boy holding him by the hand,
Let me feel the pillars that support the house, so that I can lean against them.
Incidentally, the house was full of men and women. All the Philistine lords were there, and on the roof there were about 3,000 men and women who were looking on while Samson provided amusement. Samson now called out to Jehovah,
Sovereign Lord Jehovah, remember me, please, and strengthen me, please, just this once, O God, and let me take revenge on the Philistines for one of my 2 eyes.
Then Samson braced himself against the 2 middle pillars that supported the house, and he leaned on them with his right hand on one and his left hand on the other. Samson called out,
Let me die with the Philistines.
Then he pushed with all his might, and the house fell on the lords and all the people in it. So he killed more at his death than he had killed during his life. Later, his brothers and all his father's family came down to take him back. They brought him up and buried him between Zorah and Eshtaol in the tomb of Manoah, his father. He had judged Israel for 20 years.
Wow.
Chapter 17. There was a man of the mountainous region of Ephraim named Micah. He said to his mother,
The 1,100 silver pieces that were taken from you, about which you pronounced a curse, which I heard. Look, the silver is with me. I was the one who took it.
At that, his mother said,
May Jehovah bless my son.
So he gave the 1,100 pieces of silver back to his mother. But his mother said,
I will without fail sanctify the silver to Jehovah from my hand, for my son to use in making a carved image and a metal statue. Now, I give it back to you.
After he returned the silver to his mother took 200 silver pieces and gave them to the silversmith. He made a carved image and a metal statue, and they were put in Micah's house. This man Micah had a house of gods, and he made an ephod and teraphim statues, and installed one of his sons to serve as priest for him. In those days, there was no king in Israel. Each one was doing what was right in his own eyes. Now there was a young man of Bethlehem in Judah, who was of the family of Judah. He was a Levite who had been living there for a time. The man left the city of Bethlehem in Judah to find a place to live. While on his journey, he came to the mountainous region of Ephraim, to the house of Micah. Then Micah said to him,
Where do you come from?
He replied,
I am a Levite from Bethlehem in Judah, and I am on my way to find a place to live.
So Micah said to him,
Stay with me and serve as a father and a priest for me. I will give you 10 silver pieces a year, and a set of garments, and your food.
So the Levite went in. Thus the Levite agreed to stay with the man, and the young man became like one of his sons. Furthermore, Micah installed the Levite to serve as a priest for him, and he lived in the house of Micah. Then Micah said,
Now I know that Jehovah will be good to me, for the Levite has become my priest.
Chapter 18. In those days there was no king in Israel. And in those days the tribe of the Danites was looking for an inheritance to dwell in, because until then they had not received an inheritance among the tribes of Israel. The Danites sent 5 men from among their family, capable men from Zorah and Eshtaol, to spy out the land and to explore it. They said to them,
Go, explore the land.
When they came to the mountainous region of Ephraim, to the house of Micah, they spent the night there. While they were near the house of Micah, they recognized the voice of the young Levite man. So they went over to him and asked,
Who brought you here?
What are you doing in this place?
What is keeping you here?
He replied to them,
Thus and so Micah did for me, and he hired me to serve as priest for him.
Then they said to him,
Please, ask God whether our journey will be successful.
The priest said to them,
Go in peace. Jehovah is with you on your journey.
So the 5 men went on and came to Laish. They saw how the people in it were dwelling in self-reliance in the manner of the Sidonians. They were quiet and unsuspecting, and no oppressive conqueror was in the land to disturb them. They were far away from the Sidonians, and they had no dealings with anyone else. When they returned to their brothers at Zorah and Eshtaol, their brothers said to them,
How did it go?
They replied,
Let us go up against them, for we have seen that the land is very good. Why are you hesitant? Do not delay to go in to take possession of the land.
When you arrive, you will find an unsuspecting people, and the land is spacious. God has given it into your hand, a place where there is no lack of anything on the earth.
Then 600 men armed for battle from the family of the Danites departed from Zorah and Eshtaol. They went up and camped at Kiriath Jearim in Judah. That is why that place, which is west of Kiriath Jearim, is called Mehanadan to this day. They went from there to the mountainous region of Ephraim and came to the house of Micah. Then the 5 men who had gone to spy out the land of Laish said to their brothers,
Did you know that there are in these houses an ephod, teraphim statues, a carved image, and a metal statue? Think about what you should do.
So they stopped there and came to the house of the young Levite man at the house of Micah and asked how he was. All the while the 600 men of Dan, armed for battle, stood at the entrance of the gate. The 5 men who had gone to spy out the land went inside to take the carved image, the ephod, the teraphim statues, and the metal image. The priest was standing at the entrance of the gate with the 600 men armed for battle. They went into the house of Micah and took the carved image, the ephod, the teraphim statues, and the metal image. The priest said to them,
What are you doing?
But they said to him,
Be quiet. Put your hand over your mouth and come with us to be a father and a priest for us.
Which is better, for you to be a priest to the house of one man, or to become a priest to a tribe and family in Israel?
So the priest was satisfied, and he took the ephod, the teraphim statues, and the carved image, and went off with the people. Then they turned to go on their way, putting the children, the livestock, and the valuable things ahead of them. They had gone some distance away from the house of Micah, when the men who lived in the houses near the house of Micah gathered together and caught up with the Danites. When they cried out to the Danites, they turned to face them and said to Micah,
What is the matter? Why have you been gathered together?
So he said,
You have taken my gods that I made, and you have gone off with the priests too. What do I have left? How then can you ask me, what is the matter with you?
The Danites replied,
Do not raise your voice against us. Otherwise, angry men may assault you, and that would cost you your life and the lives of your household.
So the Danites went on their way, and Micah, seeing that they were stronger than he was, turned and went back to his house. After they took what Micah had made, as well as his priest, they went to Laish, to a people quiet and unsuspecting. They struck them down with the sword and burned the city with fire. There was no one to rescue it, for it was far from Sidon, and they had no dealings with anyone else. And it was in the valley plain that belonged to Beth Rehob. Then they rebuilt the city and settled in it. Furthermore, they named the city Dan, after the name of their father Dan, who was born to Israel. But Laish was the city's former name. After that, the Danites set up the carved image for themselves, and Jonathan, the son of Gershom, the son of Moses, and his sons became priests to the tribe of the Danites, until the day that the inhabitants of the land went into exile. And they set up the carved image that Micah had made, and it remained there all the days that the house of the true God was in Shiloh. Chapter 19. In those days, when there was no king in Israel, a Levite who was then living in a remote part of the mountainous region of Ephraim took a concubine from Bethlehem in Judah as his wife. But his concubine was unfaithful to him, and she left him to go to her father's house at Bethlehem in Judah. She remained there for 4 months. Then her husband went after her to persuade her to come back. He had his male attendant and a couple of donkeys with him. So she brought him into her father's house. When her father saw him, he was glad to meet him. So his father-in-law, the young woman's father, convinced him to stay with him 3 days, and they would eat and drink and he would spend the night there. On the fourth day, when they got up early in the morning to go, the father of the young woman said to his son-in-law,
"Eat something to give you strength, and then you may go."
So they sat down, and they both ate and drank together. After that, the father of the young woman said to the man,
"Please, stay overnight and enjoy yourself."
When the man rose to go, his father-in-law kept begging him, so he stayed overnight again. When he got up early in the morning on the fifth day to go, the father of the young woman said,
"Please, eat something to give you strength."
And they lingered until it was late in the day, and they both kept eating. When the man rose to go with his concubine and his attendant, his father-in-law, the young woman's father, said to him,
"Look now, it is almost evening. Please stay overnight. Here the day is coming to an end. Stay here overnight and enjoy yourself. Tomorrow you can get up early for your journey and go to your home."
However, the man did not want to stay another night, so he got up and traveled as far as Jebus, that is, Jerusalem. He had with him the 2 saddled donkeys, his concubine, and his attendant. When they were close to Jebus, the daylight was nearly gone. So the attendant said to his master,
"Should we stop at this city of the Jebusites and stay overnight here?"
But his master said to him,
"We should not stop at a city of foreigners who are not Israelites. We will go on as far as Gibeah."
Then he said to his attendant,
"Come, and let us try to reach one of those places. We will stay overnight either in Gibeah or in Ramah."
So they went on their way, and the sun began to set when they were near Gibeah, which belongs to Benjamin. So they stopped there and went in to stay overnight in Gibeah. Once inside, they sat down in the public square of the city, but nobody took them into his house to stay overnight. Eventually, that evening, an old man came in from his work in the field. He was from the mountainous region of Ephraim, and he was living for a time in Gibeah. But the residents of the city were Benjaminites. When he looked up and saw the traveler in the public square of the city, the old man said,
"Where are you going, and where do you come from?"
He replied,
"We are traveling from Bethlehem in Judah to a remote area of the mountainous region of Ephraim, where I am from. I went to Bethlehem in Judah, and I am going to the house of Jehovah, but nobody is taking me into his house. We have enough straw and fodder for our donkeys, and bread and wine for me, the woman, and our attendant. There is nothing lacking."
However, the old man said,
"May you have peace. Let me take care of anything you need. Just do not stay overnight in the public square."
So he brought him into his house and gave feed to the donkeys. Then they washed their feet and ate and drank. While they were enjoying themselves, some worthless men of the city surrounded the house and were pounding on the door, and they kept saying to the old man who owned the house,
"Bring out the man who came into your house, so that we may have sex with him."
At that, the owner of the house went out and said to them,
"No, my brothers, do not act wickedly. Please, this man is a guest in my house. Do not commit this disgraceful act. Here are my virgin daughter and this man's concubine. Let me bring them out, and you can humiliate them if you must. But you must not commit this disgraceful act toward this man."
But the men refused to listen to him. So the man grabbed hold of his concubine and brought her outside to them. They raped her and abused her all night long until the morning. Then they sent her away at the break of dawn. Early in the morning, the woman came and fell down at the entrance of the man's house where her master was, and lay there until it was light. When her master got up in the morning and opened the doors of the house to go out to resume his journey, he saw the woman, his concubine, lying at the entrance of the house with her hands on the threshold. So he said to her,
Get up, let us go.
But there was no answer. The man then put her on the donkey and set out for his home. When he reached his house, he took the slaughtering knife and took hold of his concubine and cut her up limb by limb into 12 pieces and sent one piece into each territory of Israel. All who saw it said,
Such a thing has never happened or been seen from the day that the Israelites went up out of the land of Egypt down to this day.
Consider it, take counsel, and tell us what to do.
Chapter 20. Consequently, all the Israelites came out from Dan down to Beersheba and from the land of Gilead, and the entire assembly gathered unitedly before Jehovah at Mizpah. So the chiefs of the people and all the tribes of Israel took their places in the congregation of God's people, 400,000 foot soldiers armed with swords. The Benjaminites heard that the men of Israel had gone up to Mizpah. Then the men of Israel said,
Tell us, how did this terrible thing happen?
At this, the Levite man, the husband of the murdered woman, said in answer,
I came to Gibeah of Benjamin with my concubine to stay overnight. And the inhabitants of Gibeah rose up against me and surrounded the house by night. They meant to kill me, but they raped my concubine instead, and she died. So I took my concubine's body and cut it up, and sent the pieces into every part of Israel's inheritance, because they had committed a shameful and disgraceful act in Israel. Now all you people of Israel, give your advice and counsel here.
Then all the people rose up in unison and said,
Not one of us will go to his tent or return to his house. Now this is what we will do to Gibeah. We will go up against it by lot. We will take 10 men out of 100 from all the tribes of Israel, and 100 out of 1,000, and 1,000 out of 10,000 to collect provisions for the army, so that they may take action against Gibeah of Benjamin, in view of the disgraceful act that they committed in Israel.
Thus all the men of Israel were gathered against the city, united as allies. Then the tribes of Israel sent men to all the tribesmen of Benjamin, saying,
What is this terrible thing that has happened among you?
Now hand over the worthless men from Gibeah, so that we may put them to death and clear out what is bad from Israel.
But the Benjaminites refused to listen to their Israelite brothers. Then the Benjaminites gathered together out of the cities to Gibeah to go out to battle against the men of Israel. That day the Benjaminites mustered from their cities 26,000 men armed with swords, apart from the 700 chosen men of Gibeah. In this army were 700 chosen men who were left-handed. Every one of these men could sling a stone to within a hairbreadth and would not miss. The men of Israel, apart from Benjamin, mustered 400,000 men armed with swords, and each one was an experienced warrior. They rose up and went up to Bethel to inquire of God. Then the people of Israel said,
Who of us should go up in the lead to the battle against the Benjaminites?
Jehovah replied, Judah is to take the lead. After that, the Israelites rose up in the morning and camped against Gibeah. The men of Israel now went out to battle against Benjamin. They drew up in battle formation against them at Gibeah. So the Benjaminites came out from Gibeah and struck down 22,000 men of Israel on that day. However, the army of the men of Israel showed themselves courageous and again drew up in battle formation in the same place as on the first day. Then the Israelites went up and wept before Jehovah until the evening, and inquired of Jehovah,
Should we again go into battle against our brothers, the people of Benjamin?
To this Jehovah said, Go up against them. So the Israelites drew near to the Benjaminites on the second day. In turn, Benjamin came out from Gibeah to meet them on the second day, and struck down another 18,000 Israelites, all of them armed with swords. At that, all the men of Israel went up to Bethel. They wept and sat there before Jehovah, and they fasted on that day until the evening, and offered up burnt offerings and communion offerings before Jehovah. After that, the men of Israel inquired of Jehovah, for the ark of the covenant of the true God was there in those days. Now Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron, was ministering before it in those days. They asked,
Should we go out yet again to battle against our brothers, the men of Benjamin, or should we stop?
Jehovah replied, Go up, because tomorrow I will give them into your hand. Then Israel set men in ambush all around Gibeah. The Israelites went up against the Benjaminites on the third day, and they drew up in formation against Gibeah, the same as at the other times. When the Benjaminites went out to meet the army, they were drawn away from the city. Then, as at the other times, they started to attack and kill some of the men on the highways, one of which goes up to Bethel and the other to Gibeah, leaving about 30 men of Israel dead in the open field. So the Benjaminites said,
They are suffering defeat before us, the same as before.
But the Israelites said,
We will retreat and draw them away from the city onto the highways.
So all the men of Israel rose up from their places and drew up in formation at Baal Tamar, while the Israelite ambush charged out of their places in the vicinity of Gibeah. Thus 10,000 chosen men out of all Israel came in front of Gibeah, and the fighting was heavy. But the Benjaminites did not know that disaster was near at hand. Jehovah defeated Benjamin before Israel, and on that day the Israelites struck down 25,100 men in Benjamin, all of them armed with swords. However, the Benjaminites imagined that the men of Israel would be defeated when they retreated from Benjamin. But they retreated because they trusted in the ambush that was set against Gibeah. The ambush acted quickly and charged toward Gibeah. Then the ambush spread out and struck down the whole city with the sword. Now, the men of Israel had arranged that the men who ambushed the city would make a smoke signal go up from there. When the Israelites turned around in the battle, the men of Benjamin started by attacking and killing about 30 men of Israel. And they said,
They are clearly suffering another defeat before us, just as in the previous battle.
But the signal started to go up from the city as a pillar of smoke. When the men of Benjamin turned to look, they saw the whole city going up in flames to the sky. Then the men of Israel made an about-face, and the men of Benjamin were dismayed, for they saw that disaster had overtaken them. So they retreated from the men of Israel toward the wilderness, but the battle followed them. The men coming out of the cities joined in striking them down. They surrounded the Benjaminites and pursued them relentlessly. They trampled them down directly in front of Gibeah toward the east. Finally, 18,000 men of Benjamin fell, all mighty warriors. The men of Benjamin turned and fled into the wilderness to the crag of Rimmon, and the Israelites killed 5,000 of them on the highways, and they kept pursuing them as far as Gidom. So they struck down 2,000 more men. All those of Benjamin who fell on that day amounted to 25,000 men armed with swords, all mighty warriors. But 600 retreated into the wilderness to the crag of Rimmon, and they stayed on the crag of Rimmon for 4 months. And the men of Israel turned back against the Benjaminites and struck those of the city with the sword, from men to livestock, all that remained. Also, they set all the cities in their path on fire. Chapter 21. Now the men of Israel had sworn this oath in Mizpah.
Not one of us will give his daughter to a man from Benjamin as a wife.
Consequently, the people came to Bethel and sat there before the true God until evening, crying out and weeping bitterly. And they were saying,
Why, O Jehovah, the God of Israel, has this happened in Israel? Why should one tribe be missing today from Israel?
And the next day the people got up early and built an altar there to offer up burnt offerings and communion offerings. Then the people of Israel said,
Who of all the tribes of Israel did not come up to assemble before Jehovah?
For they had taken a great oath that anyone who did not come up to Jehovah at Mizpah would be put to death without fail. So the people of Israel felt sorrow over what had happened to Benjamin their brother. They said,
Today, one tribe has been chopped off from Israel. What should we do to provide wives for those who are left, now that we have sworn by Jehovah not to give them any of our daughters as wives?
They asked,
Who among the tribes of Israel did not come up to Jehovah at Mizpah?
It so happened that no one had come from Jabesh Gilead into the camp where the congregation was. When the people were counted, they saw that none of the inhabitants of Jabesh Gilead were there. So the assembly sent there 12,000 of the mightiest men. They commanded them,
Go and strike down the inhabitants of Jabesh Gilead with the sword, even the women and the children. This is what you should do. Every male, as well as every woman who has had sexual relations with a male, you should devote to destruction.
Among the inhabitants of Jabesh Gilead, they found 400 girls who were virgins, who had never had sexual relations with a man. So they brought them to the camp at Shiloh, which is in the land of Canaan. Then all the assembly sent a message to the Benjaminites on the crag of Rimmon, and offered them peace. So Benjamin came back at that time. They gave them the women whom they had kept alive from the women of Jabesh Gilead, but they did not find enough for them. And the people felt sorrow over what had happened to Benjamin, because Jehovah had made a division among the tribes of Israel. The elders of the assembly said,
What should we do to provide wives for the remaining men, since all the women were annihilated out of Benjamin?
They replied,
There should be an inheritance for the survivors of Benjamin, so that a tribe may not be wiped out of Israel. But we are not allowed to give them wives from our daughters, because the people of Israel have sworn, Cursed is the one who gives a wife to Benjamin.
Then they said,
Look, there is a festival of Jehovah from year to year in Shiloh, which is north of Bethel and east of the highway that goes up from Bethel to Shechem and south of Lebonah.
So they commanded the men of Benjamin,
Go and set an ambush in the vineyards. And when you see the young women of Shiloh come out to join in their circle dances, each of you should come out from the vineyards and seize a wife from the young women of Shiloh, and you should return to the land of Benjamin. And should their fathers or their brothers come to make a complaint against us, we will then tell them, Show us favor for their sakes, because we could not provide each one a wife by war, and you could not give a wife to them without becoming guilty.
So the men of Benjamin did just that, and they each carried off a wife from the women who were dancing. After that they went back to their inheritance and rebuilt their cities and settled in them. And the Israelites dispersed from there at that time, each one to his tribe and his family. And they departed from there, each one to his inheritance. In those days there was no king in Israel. Each one was doing what was right in his own eyes.
Is that it? Yep. That is it. That is it. Now we'll read the verse of the day, which is Mark chapter 14, verse 21. For the Son of Man is going away, just as it is written about him. But woe to that man through whom the Son of Man is betrayed. It would have been better for that man if he had not been born. Do you know who that is? Leave a comment below. Thank you, Carol, for the verse of the day. You did really, really good. So I'm going to go now, get breakfast in me. I love you. Love, don't judge. Peace out.